our first event today, we're going to have one of our very own Falcon Olympians here. Coach Connaughton, if y'all don't know him, he's the head track coach and he's a PE coach here. And just recently, he's also a strength and conditioning coach. But he ran here in Arlington in college and then competed for Team Canada in the Olympics. And because we're doing the Falcon Olympics, I figured why not have our own Olympian speak to us. So please give it up for our own Coach Connaughton.
Well, thank you for that. That was really kind. So I've done this before. I've spoken in front of corporations and schools, and closing ceremonies. I've done all sorts of things, but I've always just told a story from like the beginning to kind of the end. I'm going to skip all that because this is going to be a little bit of an exercise we're going to do together. I just want to warn you, this is it's kind of revealing on my end. Just to frame a reference, we're going to skip ahead. This is going to be the London Olympics 2012, the 4x100 meter relay. Fastest men to ever live in this race. I just happen to be in it too. I'm not one of those fastest men of all time, but there are some people that you'll see in this race and some performances that are incredible. So Trim, you can go ahead and start this. We are in lane 5. Oops, skipped too far ahead. So we're in lane 5. We have Australia, France, Japan, Canada, Jamaica. Hit play, please. Jamaica, USA, Trinidad, and the Dutch team. So again, this is the first leg. 4x1 relay is, as you can imagine, a relay. You're passing the baton. This is my teammate Shea Smith. He's entering exchange 2. That's me at the top, receiving the baton now. The guy with the yellow, it's the second fastest human being of all time, Johan Blake. Outside of him is the American record holder, Tyson Gay. And that is, of course, Usain Bolt. If you look at the left corner there, world record is 37:04, 36:85. I don't know if you saw what happened on the back end of it, but we finished in bronze medal position. You can clap for that. Sure, you can skip to the next video, if you wouldn't mind. So there's me, it's kind of skewed. This guy right here, Justin Warner, is a TCU alumni. He's probably wind up in the TCU Hall of Fame. You can press play there, Trim. Okay, this is Johan Blake to Bolt. Any relay runners out there? You can pause it right there, Trim, if you wouldn't mind. So we did our victory lap, so to speak. We got about 100 meters around the track. Crazy story. There's about 75,000 people in the crowd, and I had the Canada flag around my shoulders, and we were just kind of wandering around basking in this incredible experience. And I heard my father's voice in 75,000 people. I could hear him shouting my name. Way to go, Jared! Way to go! He's from Boston. He's got that really heavy Boston accent. Way to go, Jared! And then this hush came over the crowd. And the hush turned into a kind of boos, jeers. And just off, if you can imagine, at the top of the corner, about 150 meters away is the Olympic flame. And just off to my left, about 100 feet up, is the scoreboard. The scoreboard went black. And about 10 seconds later, results came back on the board. Canada had been disqualified. We lost our medal. And I was the elder statesman of the group. I was the captain. I was appointed the captain of the Olympic team. It was quite an honor. I was the oldest guy out there. This was my second Olympic Games. I competed in 2008 in Beijing as well. And they all turned to me and they looked at me like, what happened? So I looked at the replay board and I'm looking at the check mark. Rachel can tell you what a check mark is, but a check mark is a piece of tape on the track. When the incoming athlete hits that mark, the outgoing athlete leaves. It's really precise. We took about 5 years to create data to really make that mark matter. So most of the time you watch the Americans, they just throw a mark out there and they let their foot speed do the work. We didn't have that foot speed. We weren't really that talented. So we really worked on that. So sometimes what happens in a relay is you pass outside the zone, you get disqualified. That's not what happened. When I was rounding the corner, just as I passed to Justin, I stepped on the landline. One step. And we were disqualified. Can you play the rest of the video? So just to frame a reference, this video on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube has been viewed about 1.5 billion times. That's me wandering off. That's Justin, Gavin, and then here's Trinidad that finished 4th. They're now walking out on the track to receive their medal. Shay, sort of a poster child for emotional. Sport really brings out a lot of that in us, right? The announcer is this very famous BBC announcer, and he's explaining the heartache and the heartbreak of an event like this. So I want you to do something for me, just for a second. I want you to close your eyes. Just do that for me. Just close your eyes. Take 2 deep breaths. And I want you to think about what I felt in that moment. Okay? So go through your thoughts. Think about what I must have felt. And then I want you to ask yourself, have you ever felt like that before? Okay, you can open your eyes. So these are some of the things that went through my mind. How do people think of me differently now? Am I ever going to get over this? I worked my whole life for this. I left Canada to come to Texas. I didn't know anyone when I came down here. No one. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have a cell phone. I had a dream and a passion. I didn't know how to turn on a washing machine. I had very little life skill, but I knew how to do this. Was I ever going to recover from this? And the one at the end is what my dad says is the Connaughton curse. Why does this stuff always happen to me? If any of you ever asked yourself that, when you work your butt off and then you get a result that doesn't go your way, do you ever ask yourself, like, why does this always happen to me? I had to ask myself that. And those thoughts, if not handled properly, turn into beliefs, right? So here are 3 things I use to help me get out of that funk, to help me get out of that headspace. Next slide, please. First one is recognizing the power of humility. If you're a sprinter, you can ask this guy. You can ask this young lady. Just 2 of the fastest people in the United States, sitting 10 yards away from each other. You have to be confident, right? It's an individual sport. You have to have that unwavering sense of self-belief. But I realize that humility provides opportunity for growth and to learn. There's a network of people in this room who are here to facilitate your potential. Their jobs, when they wake up in the morning, is to show up to work to make your life better, to make your life more empowered and more enriched, and to facilitate your potential. Okay? Be humble in accepting that guidance and mentorship. You don't know it all. You're teenagers. You might think you do. Trust me, you have a lot to learn. And there's people in this room that can help you with that. The power of humility, really important, even for a sprinter. Keep a daily journal. The 2 best seasons of my life, 2008 Beijing, 2012 London, I kept a really detailed journal of my training, but more importantly than that, I kept a really detailed journal, like a diary. I would go home, I would write. I would compartmentalize my thoughts, and if there's anything you can take from this, remember this. Thoughts into words, words into action, action into achievement. Believe that. You got a lot of thoughts up here. If you don't put it on paper, it will never manifest into anything. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, I ever received, was a dream without a plan is a wish. And if you have a proverbial genie's lamp that you can have 3 wishes granted to you, great. But I'm here to tell you that that doesn't exist. So if you don't have a plan, you don't have a plan of action, you're not going to achieve anything. Or you're certainly not going to achieve your potential. Third one. In Canada, I'm a part of this campaign called Let's Talk. And Let's Talk is simply that. Creating a network of people you trust, friends, family, coaches, teachers, where you can express your feelings, express your thoughts. Life is confusing. There's people in your network that if you talk to them, you would be surprised how quickly they can connect the dots because they probably felt those same feelings too. Does that make sense? Learn to talk to people. Learn to express yourself. And this is the final slide. This is not from the Olympics. This is from the Berlin 2009 World Championships. This is that's Usain Bolt. You recognize him? Anybody know who that is? Any track? That's Michael Frater, TCU alumni, training partner of mine. That's me. That's my teammate Shay. This is the same venue that hosted the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. Does anybody know the significance of those games? What is the greatest moment in American sports? Does anybody know? It happened in that stadium. It happened when Jesse Owens stood on the podium and saluted the flag. And Lutz Long jumper from Germany, was expressing the Nazi salute to 100,000 Germans. And Adolf Hitler was in the crowd, using the Olympic Games as a mechanism to propagate hatred. And Jesse Owens, a man of color, stood in defiance and saluted his flag in triumph. I competed in the same stadium as Jesse Owens, my hero. The guy that ran the first leg of this race is a guy named Sam Effa. Sam Effa and I were friends. And a year later, Sam was the national champion in the 100 meters. And as rivalries happened, our friendship fell apart. We weren't on talking basis anymore. We were rivals. Fast forward the tape, 2014, that's the last year I competed. I was in Toronto, and I called him. I said, let's break bread. Let's bury the hatchet. Let's reconcile this friendship. So we met up for lunch. We talked, we swapped stories, and he told me, I want to tell you my experience watching you at the Olympics in 2012. He watched just like those 1.5 billion people watched. He saw us win that Olympic medal, and the first thought that came to his mind was jealousy. He was jealous. He was envious. Right? He worked really hard to get to that point too, and he didn't make it. And then when we lost the medal, he initially thought, ha, kind of Nelson from The Simpsons, you know? And then it dawned on him, he's like, this isn't a laughing matter. He felt deep, incredible sorrow for us, because he knew how hard we worked. He also felt sorrow for himself, because he looked at me in the eye, and I'll never forget this. This is one of the most powerful moments of my life. He looked me in the eye, and he started to cry. And he said, as hard as that was, as difficult of an experience as that was, I would have given anything to have been there. And it dawned on me that although I lost that medal, and I lost that medal for my teammates and my country, the process and the commitment and the sacrifice to get there has made me who I am now. It's provided me the opportunity to mentor people like Jeremy and Rachel. It's provided me incredible opportunities. I met my wife as a result of my pursuit of my goal. I have 2 beautiful boys at home as a result of chasing a goal. So the message is this: there's gonna be tough times. There's gonna be tough times. And there's times where you're gonna be You feel like you're in isolation, alone in a crowd, right? But the tough times will wake you up to the good ones that you weren't paying attention to. Does that make sense? So, I don't want this to be a somber moment. I want this to be a moment of reflection. So remember the three things. Power of humility, power of kindness, keeping a journal, so important, and creating a network where you can talk to people. Okay? Can we all do that? Can we all collectively see the value in that? Okay. Well, thank you for being a great audience. Are there any questions? Anything, observations? Well, good. Well, thank you for this opportunity. This was hard for me because I've never done this style before. It's always been a highlight reel. So to kind of reveal maybe some non-highlights was tough for me to do this. So thank you for being here.